Entertainment Soldier here, and I'm back to talk about Star Wars Andor Season 1, Episode 10, and my thoughts on this great episode. Listen, it was great. I'm not going to deny it. I think this episode was interesting. I love the fact we focused on Andor for the majority of this episode. I also like the fact we're finding out more information about the rebels and what they're doing behind the scenes. I can't really say anything bad about this episode. I will say the Mon Mothma stuff that was in this episode, I could do without it, personally. That storyline they're going with that culture's, traditions, kind of could do without that type of stuff. I don't really need to care about it. I just want to concentrate on the rebellion fighting the Empire. I will actually say one thing. I do have one problem with this episode. Well, actually, it's mainly to do with the prison operation kind of thing. Because you know that they keep switching a prisoner to another prison and, not releasing any of these people. My problem with this storyline is, why doesn't the prisoner tell all the other prisoners what's happened? Why is it that the Empire keeps switching these prisoners to different prisons, and each one of these prisoners just say nothing to the other prisoners about the fact he has never gotten out of prison even though he's done his time? So I think that is a plot hole for me, because it doesn't make sense why a prisoner would stay quiet. And it also doesn't make sense why the Empire would do this. Like, why wouldn't you just, bump up the sentence or something? It kind of is a bit ridiculous, because all you're doing is going to start a massive, riot. You're just going to get these people who are literally working to get free to a point where they're just going to have to fight to get free. So yeah, I think that's a big problem with this kind of storyline they're going with the Empire. Still makes me hate the Empire. I just would like a little bit more of an example of why these prisoners just stay quiet about not being released. It seems a bit weird to me. But overall, I think the episode is good. I think it is great. I did like the Andor stuff. I did like the Leffen stuff. And yeah, I think this episode is a 7 out of 10. I think it's an interesting one. I think it's entertaining. And yeah, I do still feel sorry that Andor is still not getting a decent viewership. I mean, unfortunately, that is Star Wars right now. But with Andor, I don't think it was ever going to be something massive. But it does deserve to be. I do think it is still a really good show. Slow, but it's got interesting storylines. Okay, so let's go into spoilers now. If you don't want to hear spoilers, leave in 3, 2, 1. So episode starts off with Andor talking to Andy Serkis about, getting on with trying to get the hell out of the prison. Now, the Andy Serkis character, listen, he wants to get out too, because he's pretty much realised there is no escape from this place if you do as you're told, because they're never going to let you out. They're just going to make you keep building until you're dead. So he wants to fight, but he's too scared to, or he doesn't want to fail in his attempt, because again, if he does this, he'll be in prison for longer. So he has to consider his position here. But when him and Andor get back to the cells of the other prisoners, Andy Serkis pretty much just says, fuck it, there is no escape from this place unless we fight to escape. So Andor pretty much begins the plan to try to get them out of prison. We then go to another scene with Mon Mothma. Now, as I talked about, the Mon Mothma stuff, it's a kind of hit and miss. I want to see it in the Senate doing her job. I don't care about family business. Now, I like the fact in this episode we concentrated on her trying to get money to the rebellion, which is a good thing. But pretty much, this storyline is pretty much... so the scene is, Mon Mothma with her friend is talking to this black merchant, black market merchant, and she doesn't really like doing this because she's against like the black market, but it's kind of necessary evil because he can move significant amount of money without the Empire finding out, so she needs him to move the money to the rebellion. Unfortunately, the black market salesman, he doesn't want to do this for money. He doesn't want to get paid for his work. He wants another deal with Mon Mothma. And a deal that he's asked for is an arranged marriage between his son and her daughter. Now, he doesn't outright say that's what he's looking for. What he's asking for is pretty much a meeting between her daughter and his son, but she pretty much knows what he wants, which is a marriage between his son and her daughter. She doesn't want that. She just wants to make a simple deal with this guy, move the money, and she just wants to be done with him. But he sees Mon Mothma's career, he sees her wealth, he wants his family to be a part of that, so he wants to join their families together with an arranged marriage, which is what their species does, or what their planet does. And so Mon Mothma says no to begin with, but when the black market guy pretty much looks at Mon Mothma, he knows she's thinking about it because she's in desperate need to get more money to the rebellion, and she can't just keep waiting around for things to be good for her. So it's probably going to be next episode where Mon Mothma agrees to the meet between the son and the daughter, but I think Mon Mothma will try to stop her daughter getting, well, romantically involved with this guy. So that's the end of Mon Mothma's stuff. Back with Andor. So Andor's plan is basically to cause a leak in one of the gas tubes behind the work area to make it leak water out onto the floor to short circuit the electrical grid. Now, my problem with this is this place is surrounded by water and nobody has put in a safety mechanism, safety feature to ensure that if a leak does happen and the floor does get wet, why isn't there any safety measures on stopping the short circuit? I think, again, if you've seen places that work near water that use electric, they always have a safety kind of feature just in case it does get covered in water, so it can still work. So I kind of think that should have been a bit more explained. I kind of would have liked a better way for them to get out, to have short-circuited the floor, but I think I can live with it. It's still a good explanation of how they deal with the floor and how they stopped it from electrocuting them. So I kind of like that. So yeah, Andor starts, causes a leak, a lot of water comes out. The next shift is starting. The Imperials try to bring in another prisoner to start work in the facility. But then Andor signals to the other prisoners to start a diversion to, distract the Imperials. So they do that. Two prisoners get into a fight. The Imperials kind of get distracted by that, try to get them to stop, and then sabotages the lift, which causes all the prisoners to then start fighting back and throwing shit at the Imperial prison guards. The prison guards try to fight off the prisoners. They kill a lot of them, but there's too many prisoners, climbing up. They can't stop them. So Andor kills two of the Imperial prison guards. The prisoners climb out of the work floor. I mean, the Empire does try to use the electrical grid on the prisoners, but then it short circuits because of the water, and then Andor kills the last Imperial on that level. They then start grabbing blasters, and then they start fighting back against the Imperial prisoners. They go through the entire facility, freeing each work bay. Andor and Andy Serkis then get up to the command deck, where they take control of the electrical grid. They turn off the electrical grid, making sure that the prisoners can now overtake the prison, and the Imperials are now completely outnumbered. and they don't have the advantage of the electrical grid. So that was definitely, I think that's a big problem with the Empire. They should have had some sort of ship standing by, like a Star Destroyer or a smaller ship with a Stormtrooper battalion. I do think that should have been in this episode. I would have liked to have seen, like, I can't really think why the Empire would not have a contingency plan for the prisoners rising up and, you know, short-circuiting the electrical grid, because the Imperials are really outnumbered on this prison. Like, it's literally 10-1, because you then see another scene, the Imperials have to hide from the prisoners because they're just too outnumbered, and the prisoners have just got too many blasters on them for them to stop them. So I do think that's a problem with the episode. I would have liked to have seen the ending of this episode being Stormtroopers just landing, firing at all the prisoners, and Andor uses this as a way to get out of the prison. It's definitely bloody, and it would definitely be heartless of Andor, but I think it's a more realistic approach to the prison. You'd also feel sorry for the prisoners, because anyway, that's a different story. But what happens is Andor, Andy Serkis, and the prisoners escape to the front of the prison. They then see they can't just they're in the middle of the ocean, so they have to jump into the ocean and just swim to land and hope to get away from the Empire before they send reinforcements to the prison. Andy Serkis also says a joke about he can't swim. I thought that's kind of funny. And then they all just end up jumping out of the prison into the ocean, and Andor swims to land. And that's pretty much all of Andor's part of this episode. He is in the ending where you just see him running to land and then running away from what looks like an Imperial patrol. But that's it. Next scene is us at ISB. So the ISB have managed to capture the rebel pilot from last episode. They have sent out his ship into space, making it look like he died. Well, the pilot died on impact on something. So when the rebels take in the ship, they don't know that, I think it's got a tracker on it or something. They already know all the information about a potential rebel attack on an energy facility. So the Imperials are waiting for the attack to happen. They just need to make sure that the rebels think the pilot is dead, and the fact that instead of what he really is, which is he's pretty much been captured by ISB and has told ISB everything. So ISB has set the trap up, and the rebels are heading headlong into it. At least that's what they think. Lefon has been signalled by an agent that is working in ISB, and he goes to meet him. And it turns out this agent is one of the officers in ISB. And he's been working with Lefon for years. He's helped him go up the ranks in ISB. So basically, Lefon has a great agent in ISB, and he helps him, you know, stay one step ahead of them. And unfortunately for Lefon, his agent wants to leave. His agent wants to just be a father to his new daughter. He doesn't want to be a spy in ISB anymore, because if he gets found out, he will die, and his family will also probably be killed as well. So he wants to leave, but Lefon has to tell the agent, you can't leave, you're too important to us. Also, the agent told Lefon about the trap. Lefon is going to let the trap work so that ISB don't know they have a leak in there. So a lot of rebels are going to die, but they're doing this to keep the agent in ISB. And Lefon pretty much tells the agent, listen, you can't leave. You're the best chance the rebels have of being ahead of the Empire. You have to stay there. But also Lefon does pretty much threaten his child by keep reminding him about the child, which is definitely a threat. And Lefon pretty much just says, listen, I've given my life to this. I've given up any hope of surviving. This is my life now. I'm a rebel. I want to fight for like the right side of history. I want to fight for the rebellion, and so he's kind of happy to sacrifice his life for this. And he pretty much tells the agent, "Do as you're told, or you're dead." And then the episode ends with Andor being chased, or at least running somewhere to get away from the patrol. And that's the end of the episode. I do think this is a good episode. I like the prison escape. I would have liked a bit more improvements on certain aspects of it. But at the end of the day, it was still an interesting episode. I still like Andor. And I think he's getting better through this series when you concentrate on him and make him an interesting character. Problem is, will they keep this up, or will we get some sort of change? I don't know. But yeah, it's a strong season. We're nearly at the end now, and I don't think it's amazing, but it's definitely an improvement of what we've been getting this year, since we've had Boba Fett and Kenobi. You know, Andor not being shit is a plus to me. And that's the end of my review. If you like my review, give it a like. If you dislike my review, give it a dislike. And if you like my content, do think of subscribing. Entertainment World Soldier. Bye.